We're back.
Episode 8 of From Open Windows, Open Doors.
And when I tell you, this is probably one of the best episodes yet.
The
Easily.
payoff was so good.
I mean,
So good.
we got so much character development. And we're going to go through, of course, this episode, share some of the play-by-play. But then there's also a couple of things that I think that they could have changed, or questions that I had when I saw various different scenes that I definitely want to address.
Yeah, this episode definitely raises more questions. It's like last episodes I had questions, but like this episode now there's even more questions on top of that. So
yeah,
this episode was so good.
So good. So it really kind of starts off with us just seeing the aftermath of what happened at Covenant House.
Yeah.
So you have all of the different characters that were there recuperating, recovering from what occurred. Everybody's in shock. Everybody is just can't believe what happened.
Yeah, Donna's picking up body parts and like only 13 people survived. It was like a disco bloodbath.
Yeah.
Like in Covenant House. So they're just trying to get everything together. Like they're setting up housing with all the Covenant House's refugees.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're like getting placed in these different houses in town. And then, as you know, like I guess the townspeople and the Covenant House people don't really mess with each other.
Yeah.
And we always wondered why. Like what happened to where Donna's telling Boyd, you're not allowed to come up here. Like, pump your brakes.
And so they're getting placed, and many of the townspeople are not super receptive to it because they're thinking about the limited resources that they have, and do they have enough resources? This was something that was interesting to me, because all of these animals that appear that they're eating, these goats, these chickens, nobody says how they got there. Nobody really talks about how many they have. So I was a little bit surprised when they started to talk about scarcity and stuff like that, because I'm like, is it really scarcity going on? I thought that you guys were just getting these goats out of the middle of nowhere.
Did run out of peaches. So Victor and his peaches. And also, we didn't see Victor this episode.
At all.
What happened to him? Now, we know he has this thing about the trees. They're called the anywhere trees. If you go in a tree, you end up somewhere. And remember, he was telling Jim's son that you don't know where you'll end up. So I'm wondering, where is Victor? Did he end up somewhere crazy?
Exactly.
Did he get out?
Mm-hmm. And as this episode goes on, they're going through the process of like this transitional period. But then you also have, the sheriff is really struggling with some things, because the priest was like a really good friend to him. And of course he was
Showed him the ropes.
Yeah, he showed him the ropes, but he was slain in the previous episode while trying to help the people that were fleeing the Covenant House. But more importantly, we kind of got a chance to see where this great relationship come from, because they finally showed us how the sheriff and his family ended up in this town, or whatever you want to call it. And which was very interesting, because when they showed up, it was actually around nighttime. They had the same tree that blocked their path.
Yeah.
They showed up at nighttime, and it was the priest who approached them and said,
stop. Like, he ran in front of the car and was like, whoa. You need to get out the car. You need to come with us. I'll explain it to you later. And initially, of course, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? But you don't see, I don't know, did they show if Boyd and his family had been driving around for a while?
They didn't show that element of it, but I guess
I'm pretty sure that
I'm sure they were. They kind of didn't have to, because everybody kind of had that same experience. And somehow he convinces them to get out of the vehicle. And at this time, we also get a chance to see that his wife, what is his wife's name? Sheriff's wife. Look it up. Yeah, look it up. But we got a chance to see that she had a firearm. We got a chance. She's ex-military as well.
She was a Marine.
And they finally decide to get out of the vehicle, and they're hiding inside of like this underground bunker type shelter type situation, which is horrifying, because they're hearing the people get slain.
Yeah, it's like they're in, like Donna said, it's like they're hunting. They're enjoying what they're doing. So it's not like they're hunting to eat and it's a quick kill. They're hearing these lingering screams of like, oh my God. And these are not like houses where you can like get away from the window and not see and hear anything. You're right there, and it's right above you, and you can hear everything. And you don't know, at this point, they don't have the talismans.
Exactly.
They didn't, so they don't know if those things can get in and get them.
Yep.
At this point,
they're just hiding.
They're just hiding, like you can't find them.
Yeah, this is the point of them just hiding and being silent and praying and just kind of hoping. So when they come out of the bunker, this is when they have the opportunity to see, I guess, the byproduct of what these things are, what happens. So they come to the conclusion of how do we make the best of this situation? And what's really intriguing is the leadership role the sheriff takes upon. And to me, this was fascinating. I was wanting to see how he got to the point where he became like the de facto leader.
So he was ex-military as well. And his job was, I don't know if you caught this, his job was to go into these, I don't know if he said war-torn areas or these bases and kind of like take very little resources and kind of help their operations kind of run smoothly, kind of like a logistics guy. And so that's basically what he did in the town. And they didn't really get any answers because the priest and Donna, they didn't have any answers. All they knew was that these humanoid things were killing people at night and they had to hide. Yep. That's all they knew.
And he steps into this leadership role because he says, okay, guys, let's get organized about dealing with this situation. So he becomes somewhat of like this de facto leader, and he starts to really organize the townspeople, creating different safe points at night. We're going to rotate, figuring out how do we take our resources and pull them together and strategically divvy them up to the people so that they can be successful. And really taking on his leadership role, which is amazing. But then the fact that he took on his leadership role played a very pivotal part in what happened between his family and his wife.
And so we get a chance to find out that, you know, his son Ellis was telling him, like, we need you with us. Like, we know that they've called on you to take this role, to lead, but mom is cracking. And, you know, Boyd's thinking his wife is the kick-ass, you know, like she can handle she can handle this, you know, these other people need me, and she is cracking. And what makes this interesting is that, you know, earlier I had made a comment about, like, you know, this place takes a toll on your mental health, but it's like I'm surprised more people haven't cracked or snapped yet. But I guess people do it.
I found these results.
People do it in different ways. Just like Kevin in the previous episode, lonely, let the monster in. You know, like there's ways for people
to cope with
what's going on. And she thought we're dreaming, because she mentions to Ellis, I had a dream once, you know, a really bad dream, and she kind of doesn't really finish her statement. But Ellis can tell, like, something's not right with mom. Yeah.
And he approaches his dad and says, Dad, we need you. Mom, I can see some differences in mom. And, you know, the sheriff was receptive, but he was like, he was so excited that he was making progress because he had just found that goat. And he was like, we'll talk about it at night. And he ends up going into the woods, exploring more, seeing a stray dog running into the woods and getting lost in the woods late at night and having to spend the night in the forest. But we find out he was the person that found these Townsends. And he actually had his very first encounter with these aliens or demons, but because he fell into that cave and he found those...
He was surrounded by talismans.
Exactly. He was safe. And when he wakes up in the morning, he goes back to the town, hears gunfire, and sees his wife just picking people off. Like, crazy.
It was insane. Like, she was just like a marksman, just murking people. And people just had their baskets like sitting ducks. Okay? Because of course they feel like the only safe time in this town is at night.
You know, the
only safe time is the daytime. Unsafe time is night. So people are walking around with their baskets like they're going to go give or get supplies, minding their business, thinking that they're safe, not knowing this woman has snapped. And she is shooting. I mean, like,
just taking them
of course, you're walking around like nothing's happening because you think daytime it's a safe time for you.
And as she's shooting them, we see Donna come out, and I guess she shoots someone that she knows, And then Sheriff is like, chill out, baby, chill out. She kind of lowers her gun for a second, and then their son runs out, and she's about to shoot her own son. And that's when Sheriff shoots her in the back and kills his own wife, which is really sad and really interesting. And before we go on, I want to take a moment to just talk about something that I was really thinking about as it relates to this episode. And the thing that really kind of stood out to me about that scene was two things, actually. The first thing was Donna and the Covenant House, they have a really poor relationship with the townspeople. And they've never really told us why. And when I saw that moment where Sheriff's wife shot her friend or whatever, I thought about how, and maybe we'll get an explanation for this, but I was thinking that that would have been a perfect opportunity for maybe Donna's sister to get shot in that moment, and that could have been a starting point that created the rift between the Covenant House and the townspeople.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not what happened because we know that Donna's sister died within. Exactly. But I just thought that like that would have been a cool way to create the friction that we see between the Covenant House and the townspeople. And this leads me to a second component, which is the relationship between Sheriff and his son. In that, of course, that dynamic of him shooting his mother and the fact that he felt like he didn't listen when he was telling his mom that she seemed to be breaking. But to me, I feel like that turmoil that they have, I would think that the son would somewhat understand his father needing to take the action that he did. And I almost feel like in some ways that if the mother had actually maybe shot some of the townspeople, but then shot herself, I think that would have explained the friction between the father and the son even more so than the father just having to shoot the woman and his wife in the back. And the son clearly seeing why he needed to do it. I mean, what do you think about it? But you didn't feel that way.
No, I felt like it was, it made more sense. Now, would it have been more impactful if she killed herself? Because I can understand why he was mad. He was telling him, you need to come deal with your family. Like, this is not, I wouldn't be coming to you. And me I've only been a parent for 10 years, but I do know if my kid comes to me and says, hey, I need to talk to you. This is something's crazy happening with dad. I'm dropping everything and be like, okay. Because a kid doesn't do that. That's not something like a kid does. Yeah. Also, I don't think it was watching that scene, I don't think it was Donna's choosing to have Boyd not come and be anywhere near. I think she was listening to Ellis and his feelings. I don't think Ellis wanted him around. And because of that, I think Donna, just to keep the peace and understood, I think she was like, yeah, he doesn't want you here. You can't be here. So I think that's what it was, because their relationship didn't seem horrible. And of course, adult, she seems like to be, think that what he did made sense, to do. Yeah. So I think really him not being able to come to Covenant House had something to do with Ellis not wanting him there. But I do see your point of what would have made a bigger impact. Yeah. But I still think
the way it was written either way.
It would have been still good, but I really did think. I thought actually a couple episodes before, I thought that Boyd was going to kill himself. Because remember, he went to the grave and was talking to his wife. Was like, I think I know what I need to do. I think he had, at that point when I was watching, I thought he had cracked up and was like, yeah, it's time for me to go, because he was screaming in the mirror and doing all this other stuff. I think that's what I thought originally. But to me, it would have, if it were you and you thought you were dreaming and you needed to get out, would you want to leave your kid behind, not knowing that they wouldn't have been able to get out of their dream?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because to me, as a mom, if I thought I was out of my mind and I need to free, us from this bad dream by killing everybody, to get us, I would have done the same thing. I wasn't going to leave my family behind. Yeah. Wake up. Wake up.
Yeah, that was just a really emotional scene and just really interesting but then they flash back to, you know, the present time, and this whole event and situation of Covenant House really has started to create a sense of urgency amongst almost everybody.
Like, okay,
it's time that, like, we can't
we were
just...
like Kenny said, we were never safe. It was just a matter of time. And he's right. You know, you got all these people, somebody's going to snap, and you're not safe. Even previously, you should know you're not safe being seeing what happened during the day with all these people, and you're in this situation where you can't leave. Monsters are like killing and torturing people at night. Like, somebody is going to do something to make everybody unsafe at any point in time during the day. Just like Sarah, she left the door open to let the people inside of the and killed Kenny's dad. So I mean, they were on borrowed time.
Exactly. And you see Sheriff is starting to say, you know what, I am going to pursue my endeavors, trying to figure things out by going into the woods and figure things out. And of course, at that time, he's also captured, what's the young lady's name that was,
Sarah.
He's captured Sarah because he knew that she was in the, you know, the priest's basement or whatever. And we also see the sheriff's Padawan. We also see him.
Calling him that.
Yeah, because that's what he is to me.
Young Padawan.
Yeah, we see him start to step up, and he fusses at Sheriff, and then he also fusses at Donna, like, we need you to step it up and be the hardcore military leading type individual that you are. And he's taking on that leadership role and that ownership, and we're starting to really see that sense of urgency from a lot of different people. And then they transition to the Patterson's father, what's his name?
Jim.
They transition to Jim.
Jim and Jay.
Yeah, teaming back up and trying to come up with this strategy again. But then they decide the Covenant House is tall enough to put this electrical device on the top and broadcast the signal over the trees. And they have a quick meeting with Donna, which this meeting frustrated me a little bit. But they're talking to Donna and they're like, yo, what do you think about us putting this antenna up here? And Donna looks at them and is like, what do you mean? Why do you want to put this? And
why do you think we want to put the antenna up?
And then, like, why do you care? Because,
like, it's not your house. Like, people have died there. I mean, it's not. The windows are broken. Like, dude, let us
put this damn antenna up here. And it pissed me off. And it was like, why we got to convince you to do something where we trying to get the hell out of here? And it's just like, what are you talking? And then she finally is like, yeah.
But then, remember what I said? I think some of these people are in on this. They want to keep them there. So, I don't know. So, you know, she finally agrees, and, you know, they have kind of a big powwow team meeting between the Covenant House and the community people, and they're kind of talking about, like, we got to get on the same page. We got to collaborate. We got to work together. Then they talk about, hey, we got to get this antenna on top of the roof, and then the community is coming together, harvesting material so that they can create this device to put it on the house to be able to broadcast these details out there. And the episode kind of ends with Sheriff and Sarah
walking off into the woods, and that's where we're left off. But like I said, this episode to me was amazing for a couple of different reasons, because we're getting character development. They're starting to answer some of our most needed questions. Like, I really wanted to know, how did Sheriff get there? I wanted to know what happened to his wife. I wanted to know, why was him and his son's relationship
why were they
beefing so hard? Yeah. And they gave us the answers to those questions. And one of the other things that we were kind of talking about, kind of side note also, and when we were talking about, like, why didn't his dad just take a moment to just listen to him? And I thought about how sometimes, as focused as he was as a person, right? And being somebody in the military like he was, his son was probably always a afterthought, because when you're in the military, you're probably traveling a lot. You got a lot of things going on. And the son just probably felt like, dang, here I am, an afterthought. Not only is his dad in the military, but his mom too. So you can just imagine the pressures of being a child growing up in that environment, in that type of situation.
Yeah.
So really interesting stuff. You were talking about, where's our our Peaches guy.
Victor.
Where's Victor? I thought that was interesting. How like Victor was just like not there.
Yeah, and that's why I said, I think he might have got out.
You think so?
Because remember a couple episodes ago, he was telling the kid, you know, these trees, they're anywhere trees. You go in a tree and you end up somewhere else. And then he also said you don't know, some of them you don't know where you end up. So I'm guessing he's dropped rocks in one of these anywhere trees and it just didn't appear anywhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Victor might be gone. I don't know, but I'm still on like, where did these talismans come from? How did he know that they would work? Because it's not like they just kind of appeared in this place and they were just in the walls.
Yeah, why would he know that was the thing?
It wasn't like he had to mine them or just, I don't know.
That's weird. It's kind of, you know how like you play a video game and it's like you go to different places, a safe base, and it's got material. You grab guns, you grab ammo. It's like, where did this come from? And then even though he fell in the cave and he saw him, how did he make the connection that these were the things that kept them away? But overall, I would say like the character development, where we're going, everything is just so good, and they gave us so much with this particular episode.
We find out what happened to the Tabitha and Jim's other child that died.
Oh yes, and then that was a big piece there. You know, we found out what happened to the child, why they have a rift in their relationship, and we find out the trauma that's associated with that, and how it in particular is really hurting, you know, the mother, because she says that all she sees when she sees her husband is that telephone ringing, and I guess the baby falling to the ground or whatnot. But we also start to see them. I feel like there was some progress made between the daughter and the mother there. You know, her kind of explaining how she feels and where they are as a family. But I think that what happened at Covenant House is going to bring their family more together now, you know, and bring the daughter back in the house, even though she probably may have a choice to go back to Covenant House. I don't think daughter's going to go back there.
I don't even know why that would even be an option.
I don't even know why people even want to go to the Covenant House anymore at this point.
Okay. I don't want to do that. But I definitely can't wait to see what happens next episode with Sarah and Boyd taking down the big bad woods. And I'm really afraid for them. I'm would not, because he got lost the first time, remember? So I don't know. Or is he gonna run into more Union Army soldiers than that? So
well, and I would be curious, guys, in the comment section, what are your theories? What are you looking forward to seeing most in the next episodes? Secondly, what about episode 8 really fascinated you? And thirdly, what did you think about our comments about, you know, should the mother have shot herself? Should she have tried to shoot the son? What do you think about that?
What would you have, if you were a writer in the room, what would you have done?
What would you have done with that? But yeah, overall, good episode.
That episode was
really good. We started watching another show. We took some of you guys' recommendations. What were we watching?
Severance.
We started watching Severance.
And isn't it crazy that a lot of the shows that are coming out we're watching has something to do with people like not escaping reality, but being stuck in some type of loop, or stuck in there, just stuck. Yeah.
So I'm excited, you know, to talk about that some more. You guys gave us those recommendations. Please don't forget to subscribe and share.
Keep talking to us in the comments. Those
exactly. Really cool. And as always, 1, 2, 3, fucking science. Peace.